if you were to believe something which is counter to what they want to occur, then this would be counterproductive to their agenda. So they construct a reality, a faux reality, a false narrative matrix. So you behave in a certain way. And this certain way you behave is, you could say, scripted. It is programmed into the design of the false narrative matrix. A term which is commonly used is the Hi, I'm Muzz iEvolv. You could be anywhere, but here you are watching this video. Thank you, I really appreciate that. I want to give you a quick update about what's happening with the How to Channel starter course. I sent you an email about that yesterday, and I'm going to send another one today and then another one tomorrow. And those initial 3 emails, it just gives you the opportunity to say that you would like to receive more information or to ignore it, meaning that you don't want to receive more information about that course. So in each of these 3 emails, there is a link, and if you click that link, it's going to initiate you to receive a series of emails which just explain about what's in the modules, what's in the bonuses, what's in the surprise bonuses, how it will be delivered, the live component and so on. So you can really understand everything about the course and then decide later if it's something that you want to participate in. Also, what it does, if you click that link, it locks you into the VIP pricing. So just for my VIPs, which you are one of if you're watching this, I'm going to have initial pricing just for the very first class of students. That is 50% off what it will be later. I'm estimating it approximately 50% off. What it becomes later will be dependent on testing and me just learning as I'm going along. But I have reduced the price substantially from what I was planning to put it just for the VIPs. And you lock yourself into that price if you click the link in those 3 emails I'm talking about. Now, if you're watching this, but you've never read my book or you've never done one of my courses, meaning that I don't have your email address in my system and therefore you didn't receive an email, but you have an interest about my How to Channel course, then you'll see below this video, there is a link which goes to the early bird notification list. And so if you go down there and click that link, go to that page and then add your details, that means I'll now have your email address in my system and you will immediately start receiving this sequence of emails which explain everything that's in the course, and also it will lock you in to the 50% off VIP pricing. Okay, on to today's topic. It is, are you free-willed or a programmed minion? It's a little bit cheeky. Okay, let's see what's there. Greetings and thank you for the question. Are you free-willed or a programmed minion? We have decided to channel on this topic today because we are, in a way, continuing this theme about intellect, about independence, about wakefulness, and so on, such that you can now approach what it means to be human from a different perspective, which gives you a greater capacity for utilizing your gifts of free will. Much of your society is programmed, and this is why we have use this term, programmed minion. Let us begin in this way. If you are a believer of the false narrative matrix, then you are, by definition, a programmed minion. Because this is what it is. It is programming. It is a continuation of the frog marching to the culmination of an agenda which serves those that are in control of the construction and engineering of this fake concept of the world, this artificial matrix. And if you are immersed in it with no awareness that you are immersed in it, and therefore you are responding what would be considered appropriate from the perspective of those that are making the design, then it is essentially the same as saying that you are programmed and you are operating in accordance with your programming. If you are a regular viewer of these channeling sessions, then we are willing to acknowledge that you are less programmed than your fellow humans. Yet, even though you are in a greater state of wakefulness, it is inescapable that there is still an element of programming in your behavior. And this is not because of a fault of your own, but rather as a consequence of the environment that you find yourself in, and also the environment that existed for many decades and even centuries prior to your birth. So it has been a very skilled construction of the global paradigm to form this false narrative matrix, so that when you come into it through the vehicle of your birth, it is already so well established that there is no one who actually knows what the truth is anymore. And so everybody is operating on belief systems that are artificial. And of course, when we say everybody, we mean everybody outside of the oligarchical group at the pinnacle, the cabal of darkness, the unified malevolence. They are still in possession of all of the truths of your reality, which has been available to humanity since its existence. And we add that little detail because, of course, there are many things which even they do not know, as the infinite quality of the universe is that there is much which will never be known by each individual. Yet, in the context of this discussion, they are in possession of much knowledge which has been deliberately kept from you. And this includes information regarding the moment-to-moment creation of the narrative, regarding current circumstances and world events, but also historically. They are in possession of a very detailed understanding of the history of your species. Because they are unfurling an agenda which spans many generations, then when it comes to making decisions about which actions they are going to take, it is all relative to what has happened in the past, including what has happened in the past centuries ago, because it is all part of a same mission which has spanned many generations and handed on through the same dynastic families that have been in control of much of the operations of your species and your planet for such a long time. So, if they are going to make decisions in the moment which are congruent, and also if they're going to avoid making errors which have been made in the past, then they must have a very concisive reference material from which they can gather this understanding and therefore make the best decision in the moment. What we are saying is they have a very detailed historical perspective of what has occurred throughout the history of your planet. And this historical record is very, very, very detailed. And it would be stunning to you, the individual, if you were to get access to it and discover many of the truths which are hidden from your species. Your species is far more interesting and dynamic and dripping with potential than you have been led to believe. It is essential that you do not understand the historical perspective. It is also essential that you do not understand the potential which is contained within you, and even more so within the unity of your species, the special group, the humanity being. Because if this was known, then the small cabal who orchestrate this agenda would be cast aside with such rapidity that it would be as if they are vaporized from your experience. As it is a false narrative matrix, which forms the construct of your impression of your earthly experience, then it is, of course, constructed in a way which is very deliberate to bring about the combination of this agenda. So, the construction is very focused on getting you to behave in a particular way. And this is a necessary part of the design, because the Cabal of Darkness, being very small, is not able to overcome the many billions of you outside of that elite circle through might or through any form of physical coercion. And therefore you must be influenced and persuaded to head in a certain direction through controlling the way that you perceive and believe about the world. Therefore, if you were to believe something which is counter to what they want to occur, then this would be counterproductive to their agenda. So, they construct a reality, a faux reality, a false narrative matrix. So you behave in a certain way. And this certain way you behave is, you could say, scripted. It is programmed into the design of the false narrative matrix. A term which is commonly used is the Hegelian dialectic. This is a particular mechanism they use to program you to behave in a particular way. And that particular way you behave is what furthers the agenda. So let us explain the detail of the Hegelian dialectic. This is reduced to a more simple concept, which is the problem, reaction, solution. So, there is something which the Cabal of Darkness wishes to occur, to take place. However, if they were just to simply go ahead and do that, the vast numbers of your species would say this is horrendous, this is human rights abuses, this is unfair, this is many, many things. And therefore, we do not give our acceptance and compliance with this thing that you want to occur. So, what must occur instead is it is reframed. And the way they reframe this thing they want to achieve is by creating a problem which that thing is the solution for. And so they create a problem which is a false flag, a faux problem, and they say, we wish to help you solve this problem. But what they don't say is they literally created that problem as part of their mechanism of programming you, of scripting your reality so that you play your part. You behave in accordance with the programming. So, there is the problem. And then through the media, through the cultural pillars, through entertainment, through everything, they foment the reaction to the problem until it reaches a frenzy pitch. And those that are very asleep and very much immersed and enamored by the narrative will become hysterical in their response until eventually the hysteria reaches the point where throngs of your species are literally calling for this action or solution to take place. And therefore those that created the problem in the darkness, in secrecy, but are saying they wish to help you solve the problem, now can implement the solution which was always their goal, prior to the existence of the problem. So, a classic example of this in your most recent history is the pandemic. The Cabal of Darkness, they need each of you to be inoculated with this particular substance for a variety of reasons, and many of them tied into the technocratic state and the new totalitarian system which will enslave you into perpetuity. However, if they were to just come out and say, we need you to roll up your sleeves so that we can inject something into you, which is going to make possible the next step in our technocratic totalitarian regime, then of course, humanity would say, there is no way that we are going to do that. So instead, they must invent a problem and then foment that problem through the cultural pillars till it reaches a frenzy point, and then many millions and billions of you are literally calling for the opportunity to be saved from the problem by having something introduced into your bloodstream. This is the Hegelian dialectic. And it is important, if you're going to be aware of what is coming and be awake so that you make choices which are not just the expected programmed response, that you don't just play your part in the script, that it is important that you become very cognizant of this methodology, and that when new large events come into your awareness through the cultural pillars, that you perceive them through this perspective. This event is being escalated in the cultural pillars, in the popular mindset, because it serves the agenda. And what is it that the agenda wants me to do? What is the response that it is encouraging me to have? When you look at the war in Ukraine, you can see that the expectation of you at the level of citizen is that you are very pro-Ukraine, that you are cheering on the war in Europe. And if it is to escalate to a global war, then that is just what is necessary to do what is right, to maintain democracy, to stop an evil tyrant, and so on. That is the easiest path forward in the short term, because you are rewarded by the system. You don't receive the same amount of pushback. You are participating in the group think, and the group think being a product of the false narrative matrix. However, this play of which you are an actor in the script does not have a happy ending for you, or for your way of life, or for all those that you love and care about. So, if you continue to follow the script, if you continue to be a programmed minion, then you will eventually find yourself at the end of the story, where it is inescapable in your realization that this story has a very tragic ending for me and mine. We encourage you to instead write your own story and determine what the ending of that story is. Is that ending in darkness and despair, destitution, confusion, poverty, disease, disappointment, depression, despondency? Or does it end in joy, happiness, liberation, a new beginning, a golden future, a time of love and acceptance and courage? If you prefer the latter of those two endings, then rewrite the story and determine what your role in that script is, and then begin living in that way. Program yourself. Be responsible for how you interact with the world, rather than just being fitted into a box by the system so that you become another of the programmed minions, the mindless drones. So let's look at this conceptualization of writing your own story, of living your own script, in terms of what is right on the horizon. So, what is coming down the line, as if this is something we have spoken about just very recently, is the transition into the central bank digital currency. Now, the reason that we bring this up again so soon, because it's only been 1 week since we spoke about this before, is because it is the cornerstone of what the elite wish to trap humanity in, the slave system. It is so important and quintessential to their success that it cannot be underestimated in the effect it will have on the way that you and your progeny will live into the future. And of course, the script is going to be from the storyline which they have written, that you will obediently and relievingly accept the new system, and you will fully immerse into it and embrace it and start living your life in those terms, in accordance with everything that the system says you must do, conform with, give consent to, for a continued existence in society. But is this something which you want in your story, to be enslaved in that system? Then if it's not, and you prefer the more beautiful of those story endings which we just described, then don't be faithful to the script. Don't simply execute the programming. Meaning that, don't simply do what is expected of you to continue in the flow of the way that your society is being thrust in organically. And therefore, if you are going to have an alternative script, then this alternative script should be conceived of now, so that when the time comes, you are ready to divert from the cabal of darkness script to your own script. And you will find there are many in your society that are already going their own way, living in accordance with their own script. But the phenomenon which is taking place is these breakaway scripts of individuals who have reclaimed their free will and have broken the programming. There is a great degree of similarity in the new script they are writing, because they are stepping into a paradigm where they are much more activated as an awakened unit within the special being, the group being, the humanity being. And this is why there is so much similarity in the way that each of these individuals are living. So, you can be free-willed and yet still follow a model that others have frontiered and forged ahead of you. Because you will be free-willed yet following the model, because it is from the perspective of the free will of the humanity being. This very organic bubbling of wisdom and expansion from the grassroots. When a society is truly at its wisest, the expanding wisdom of the species is bubbling from the grassroots, and ideas find their way into the free market of ideas, where they are tested and debated and challenged, and only those which are of the highest quality find their way to the very top of this percolation process, and then are integrated into society. And so society is continuously expanding in its wisdom through this grassroots organic process. And this is the way that the humanity being would function when given the opportunity. When the infiltration and the toxification and the infestation and so on of those that are trying to steer the natural propensity of humanity away from the organic into the inorganic. So instead, your societies are being crafted from a top-down perspective. And this is why you see many crazy ideas finding their way not just into the public square where they are debated, but are literally being integrated into legislation, are becoming part of the judiciary, of the legal system, of the education system, of all major cultural pillars which influence the hearts and minds of your societies. If there was a natural grassroots process, this would never occur. The only way it can occur is if the grassroots process is bypassed, meaning that it is not a manifestation of the burgeoning wisdom of your entire species, but rather it is the very deliberate destruction of the wisdom of your species by a small elite group that have usurped control of all of these cultural pillars and are now deliberately using them to inject very bad, insane, antithetical, unhuman ideas into your culture, your societies. Returning to the central bank digital currency, what are the alternatives which those that are no longer obeying the programming have come up with? What solutions have they got in place now? What have they done in agreement, in a form of organic consensus, with many others who are going through this process of awakening and writing their own script, have also accepted is the wisest path forward? What is it they're doing? It's your responsibility, if you're going to be free-willed, that you discover what these things are. What are these solutions? What are the script alternatives to what is coming on the horizon? And then when what is on the horizon does arrive, you are prepared for it, rather than finding yourself in such a moment of disaster that you have no alternative but to enter or continue your part in the script of the Cabal of Darkness and just act again like a programmed minion. This is the new way to live as an awakened being, because the central bank digital currency is not going to be the last of these pushes of the programming, of the script, which was written by those that do not have your best interests at heart. There will be more to follow after that. And if you are still living in a way where you are obedient to the programming and you just play your part in the script, then you will be caught out again and again and again and again. And you will witness your own life, your health, your relationships, your security, your everything steadily declining to a place where you do not want to be. All you need to do, if we were to encapsulate everything that we have said into a single idea, is begin living your life with a greater sense of appreciation that everything which is told to you through the mainstream is scripted and intended to continue your real-time programming such that you just execute the programming and play your part obediently in the script. And the second half of that is, with this awareness, all you need to do is anticipate what is coming and write an alternative version of that script. So when the moment comes, you are already prepared to go your own way. Let us finish in this way. Now is the time to take responsibility for yourself. The system has deliberately babied you for many generations, such that you do not need to have an internal guidance system because you are entirely guided by the external. your alarm clock, you know what time you have to get on the bus, you know what time you have to start work, you know what time you have to have your break, you know what time you have to finish work, you know what you need to do at work, and so on and so on and so on. You have this externality which determines what you must do in every moment. And part of that externality is also what is coming to you through social media, through the TV, through the radio, through the movie screen. It is all part of the programming to get you to behave in a particular way. And so you do not need an internal guidance system when you are very reliant on this externality, this very deliberate construction of your reality, such that you are marched in a particular direction obediently, without giving any second thought to what it is that you are doing. That time is past. It has led your species to a very dark and pivotal moment in its history, where you find yourself now. Because the oligarchical forces, the cabal of darkness, are so substantial in their wealth, power, and authority that they now are doing very extreme things to your cultures, to your children, to your borders, to all the ways which you prefer they wouldn't. And if you continue to be very reliant on the externality to guide you, then you will just be guided to more of that, to a state even worse than where you find your societies right now. Start looking inward. Spend more time in introspection, into peering into the deepest levels of wisdom which are contained within, rather than being guided by the external world. And when you look internally and you develop a relationship with your intuitive sense, then you are going to be more skilled at determining or discerning what is the right direction to go. But at this moment, all of the mainstream has been captured. So a very simple rule of thumb is, if it is championed by the mainstream, it is most likely a lie and most definitely not beneficial to you or your species. Therefore, those ideas don't even really need to be entertained. But the secondary ideas, what do you do with your health? What do you do with managing your finances? What do you do with the retooling of your wealth strategy, and so on? These are items which you must now take a greater degree of responsibility for, rather than just doing what the mainstream recommends that you do. And it is through little gestures like this, in a very vast array of opportunities, that you begin living as a deprogrammed, free-willed, aware, awake, sentient being. That is, living in accordance with your own script, exactly as it is intended to be. And you are not alone, because others who are making this same emancipation from the system are very similar in their ideas, very similar in their thinking, because each of you now are awakening as a component of the special being, the humanity being. And so it is with greater unity than ever before that you will experience what it means to be a human outside of what is classically known as the human system. This is the irony. Breaking away from the system, leaving the rest of those who are still very obedient to the system, so that now you are on the fringes, you are what would be considered an outcast, yet you are in a greater state of union as a human being than at any other time that was possible within the system, because the system is so rife with distortion, with mistruths, with misconceptions, with lies, falsities, and phonyism. We realize that we are beating this over the head a lot, but it is so important at this time that you begin taking more responsibility for your thoughts and the way that you live your life, the decisions that you make, and be very sure that when you decide to do something, that you are not doing it because it is programmed into you to behave that way. That you aren't just following your part in a script that you did not write, that ends in tragedy for you and yours. And by living with this degree of wakefulness, you are now very powerful in your free will, because the system cannot influence you in a substantial way. It still controls much of the systems that you will need to rely on, but it cannot control your heart and mind as it has in the past. And this is the beginning of the new human trajectory into an entirely new system based on a value of grassroots organic expansion of the wisdom of your entire species as the single unit, the humanity being. Exciting times. Enjoy them, embrace them, and become part of them. Thank you, and we love you. Thank you for making it to the end of another channeling. And now it is story time, but not really story time this week. Somebody said in the comments during the week that they would love to see some photos or something of the beach that I'm living at the moment, or the beach very near to where I live. And so I've got some footage, and this footage was filmed when it was around Christmas or New Year's or something like that. So it was probably the crowdest that I ever saw this beach. So here, have a look. This is the sunset, the sun's just setting. And this is how many people there are. I don't know if you can see. That's crazy, right? Crazy, crazy busy. And when it's like that, I'm doing lap swimming out in the ocean, and my dog is waiting on the beach by himself in that crowd. And he's not stressed, he's just like chilling. He's just chilling out, you know, looking around. He's all good, no problems at all. But that's an intense crowd. I mean, that's the most crowded beach that I've ever seen in my life. And on New Year's Eve, that beach, they say, had 200,000 people on it. Because it's kind of the tradition around here on New Year's Eve to be on the beach. Everybody dresses in white and goes to the beach, and they stay there and just revel all night. And it was estimated by local authorities that the last one, there was 200,000 people on that beach, which is absolutely insane. There's so many people, because in that video you were watching just moments ago, I think that's like 5 to 10,000. So if you can imagine like 20 to 40 times that amount of people, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Right, that's it. Not really a story this week, but this is something which is interesting and fulfilling a request from one of my lovely subscribers. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye.